Hello, and welcome to another segment of Booker Talks. I'm Kyle Adams, and along with me today, we have William Kaniper, Andrei Stefanescu, and Daniel Hecker. Today's topic at hand involves video games and controversies that coincide with each game. The controversies we will be dealing with include aggressive and/or violent behaviors that may arise in children and/or adults after playing video games that are classified as violent, and we'll also talk about the idea that many girls/women also play video games as well as the boys and men. Now, here's a starter question so I can understand where everyone stands on the topic for behavior in video games. Do you feel video games that are classified as violent cause violent or aggressive behaviors among children and/or adults? Andrei, let's start with you.
So I am an active gamer. I play all these games. Personally, I don't feel violent, and I usually play them just, to relax, just do something else. It's basically like a movie every now and then. There's actually been tests, regarding violence in video games, and the Huffington Post has a study. They tested 194 children in the Netherlands, which is a country that is renowned for video games. Everyone plays them pretty much. And children and parents were reviewed, monitored for gaming and aggressive tendencies. And there was proof that children at age 9, which is what age they were tested at, it showed that there was no correlation between aggressiveness and video games with that age. But there was another test where there was a small correlation that showed that video games didn't increase depression and anxiety with certain children. But I do believe that the biggest issue with violent video games is the word violent, because violent is such a broad statement. Why don't people talk about violent books like the Bible or Shakespeare, or violent movies, violent other forms of media?
Yeah,
Exactly.
There's always violence on the news. Does that make people violent?
Yeah, you can't take out violence out of society. It's just how it is. And I mean, I don't see a problem with books making people shoot people up.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree.
Also, there was another incident with CNN where an 18-year-old actually shot 9 people in Munich, Germany, after committing the crime. He did state that he was an active gamer and preferred first-person shooters. After that incident, most parents were not feeling very secure about video games. It was more how is my how do I explain this?
Kind of quick to point the finger at video games.
Yeah.
Not look at maybe an underlying psychological problem that was.
Yeah, and it is shown that 95% of all children in the United States do play video games. So parents were naturally worried. But Whitney DeCamp, a professor of sociology at Western Michigan University, stated that there is no correlation between games and violence, or an insignificant amount. Also, despite violent video games having a small correlation with aggression, basically the issue here is that in the test, there were some correlations that did show violent video games and aggression, but the problem is that it could be stated that people who were aggressive before video games play violent video games and then commit aggressive crimes. But that doesn't relate to the study, because if a person is naturally violent and play violent video games and do something, that just ruins the whole test. So there's that. Also, Christopher Ferguson, associate professor and co-chairman of the Department of Psychology at Stetson University, stated that video games reduce societal violence instead of increasing it, because instead of people going out doing bad things, they could just sit at home, just relax, do that instead. And yeah, that is my views on violence.
So, talking about controversial games, big one that I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with is Grand Theft Auto, the Grand Theft Auto series.
Yeah.
So, I myself play video games. Are you guys all avid gamers? Not avid gamers, but we're casual gamers, and we all play at our fair share of.
Yeah. Many hours.
So personally, I kind of feel that when I play video games, that I mainly play video games to relieve stress, and not to, and I don't feel like that video games make me more aggressive as a human being outside of playing video games. I know that I'll get frustrated while I'm playing a game, say for like FIFA 18, FIFA 17. The game can be very broken and it can get very aggravating. I get very frustrated and I'll get aggressive, I'll say, in that time being, but that doesn't account to my acts outside of the game.
Yeah, it's like the minute it's done, it's over.
Yeah, it's literally just a game at that point. When after that, I'm just like, okay, my tendencies don't become violent towards other people.
Yeah.
I don't feel.
I think it just depends on the person's traits prior to gaming that affects their outcome. Like, you shouldn't blame video games.
It's like the same thing with sports. People watch sports and they get pissed off at sports, but it's like the sports isn't making them violent. It's they were already angry before.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alright, so my personal experience with video games, personally, the only time I've ever gotten very mad at a video game is when I've been mad beforehand, and then I try to play it, and the video game, I'm doing bad because I'm already angry, which makes me more angry. But as soon as the game's over, I finish, just like you all have said. But another thing, according to the New York Times, the number of violent youth offenders fell by more than half between 1994 and 2010 to 224 per 100,000 population, while video game sales have more than doubled.
Nice. So to switch gears a little bit to our other topic, do you guys feel girls and women have shown up more on the video game scene in the recent times? Meaning, do you think that there are more female gamers in the world than most, I guess, say men and women believe there are? So, Will, let's start with you this time.
Okay, so society portrays that guys need to like certain things and girls need to like certain things because that's how our parents acted. Guys need to play with their workbench because that's what dad does, and girls need to play with their kitchen set because that's what mom does. But in reality, that's not how it really works. Guys and girls can like whatever they want to like because there's no difference between them, really. According to a 2016 study by Statista, 59% of gamers are males and 41% are females. So that's not a really big difference between guy gamers versus girl gamers compared to what society is portraying it as.
Yeah, to add on what he's saying is I found on the Google Play Store they ran a survey and they broke gamers down into 5 different areas: connected enthusiasts, playful explorers, influenced players, tentative followers, and passive players. And pretty much for all of those, it found men were about 55, 56, women 44, 46 for the first 3. And then for the last 2, it's actually women are greater at 61% to 39 and 43 to 57. So it's kind of showing you that women are becoming more common in games, and they're starting to make more games centered around women, like Lara Croft.
You can even see in boy games like Call of Duty, there's girl characters everywhere.
Yeah, now
you can choose everything.
But women have always been incorporated in games ever since Pac-Man. They made Mrs. Pac-Man so that girls could feel like they could play the game and not be criticized for playing a male kind of video game.
And it's also Mrs. Pac-Man is usually revered as the better one, so it's the female version is better than the male version.
So that concludes this segment of Booger Talks. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new from this conversation, and I hope you tune in next time for our next segment. Thank you for listening. I'm Kyle Adams, signing off.